The all is orderly and grows wherever it is planted. We have the choice to plant all our desires. We enjoy breathing in the flowers of love. We are so thankful for the powerful seeds of love planted by all. We release the need to force our plants to grow the way we want in the speed we want. We trust the all to surprise us with the new blooms. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and go right into the sharing section. So my share for today, I'm actually feeling really quite chaotic this morning. I've been busy working on this class. It's just been really actually quite stressful. I'm going up to see a friend right after this and packing and leaving. We haven't gone anywhere in so long. I'm actually quite nervous about it, but it feels like the right thing to do in my heart. So, I feel as my decisions are constantly questioned. And I used to bounce around based on others' questionings of my knowing. Sometimes I know something's good, something feels right, and I want to lean towards it. And sometimes I feel that something feels wrong and I want to lean away from it. And it doesn't make any logical kind of sense. It's more about the energy about something. And so as I experience the energy about something, I use that to walk through the world and make my decisions. And that's the choice I made for me and for anyone that wants to walk in the light with me. So that's a struggle because it's hard. It's hard to, it's new for me. I really felt it was hard there. It's not hard. It's new and it's different and it's uncomfortable, that's for sure. And it feels very uncertain. And yet I know in my heart, I know when something feels right. And I know when something feels wrong. And I know when something's hard to swallow. And I know when it's not. And I am an independent, grown woman who takes care of myself and my family. And I have that right to say, hey, I don't need to explain why this is my decision. It is. And I want all of you to have that right too. This is my sharing, and it's really hard for me to even, as I'm saying this, believe that this is something I should say. I want to look for you for approval, like, yeah, that is right. I'm going to look for something, some sort of sign that my knowing is to be trusted, and I am my own. I am my own authority. So that's what I'm working on right now. Doing this class has helped me tremendously through this time of great change. And I'm just really grateful that I've been doing it. And I find these principles really life-changing if I can pull them into my mind at times of trouble. This is the lesson on the Hermetic Principle of Cause and Effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law, the Kabbalion. The law of cause and effect, they break it down this way. first they say that everything's happening by law and not by chance. This is one of my big struggles, because often I read a book that convinces me about law, and then I'll read another book that convinces me about chaos and randomness. And both really have really good points. And so they kind of go into a great detail about why chance isn't it and why it's governed by law. And one of the parts that I like the best is this section right here, and I'm going to read it. What we call chance is merely an expression relating to obtuse causes we cannot perceive, causes we cannot understand. It's actually the chance is derived from the word meaning to fall, literally meaning the drop of the dice. And I often in my life like to believe that I leave things to chance, as in letting the cards fall where they will, or letting it be how it is. But what they're saying is, you actually even look at just that example, which caused the term of the word chance, you'll see that there's infinite instances and moments and items at play, at work, from the beginning in time throughout to that falling that created what it ends up to be. And going into how you move your hand based on how your family was genetically raised to move their hand when they throw their dice, to how those dice were made in those people. And it basically, you can spend a lot of time looking at how everything's tied together, and how it really, even that instance of chance is affected by the laws and the laws of cause and effect, because every one of those items affects another. Every person's being in every moment of how you are, it affects the all around it. Because if you change your color as you're illuminating throughout your distance, every interaction you have where your color is interacting with somebody else, or some other instant, or even with dirt or sand or the air, it changes the energy which is around that. It has to, by law of vibration. And so therefore it literally is affecting everything. For all causes, the effect of which may be seen, there is behind those an infinite unseen causes in the chain as well. So for all that we can figure out, there's even more. Does that make any sense to you?
Yes, yeah, it really does. And the interesting thing about this is, I have not done a lot of reading about chaos theory, just a little bit, and a little bit of investigation there. And it's not either or, it is both and. Because in chaos theory, there is recognition that there are so many variables that you can't always determine what the variables are going to be. So even though you think you're, well, like in Jurassic Park, you think you're dropping a drop of water in the same exact place and it's going to drip the same exact way, there are too many variables to determine that. So it looks like random chance, but in fact, it's still following law. It's following the law of gravity. It's following the law that water will always run downhill. It's following the law that things that get in the way will cause the water to go around it. So a hair, if you dropped a nano fraction off to one side and it hits a hair, then it's going to move differently than the first one. So they are all laws, but it appears to be total random chance to us because there are too many variables for us to determine exactly how it's going to happen. And so chaos forms according to law.
Yeah. I think it's really mind-blowing.
I do too. I do too. Because you mentioned in what you were saying there, that all the things from the time of the initial, Big Bang or whatever, the universe expanding, the stars forming, the vector on which everything arises, and we're, so everything happens and it's all exploding out in every possible direction. So there's vectors coming from the center of that explosion out every way. And then the earth forms, and then it cools, and then these things start to develop, and then, we evolve, and then we're born somewhere on that vector. So everything, everything prior to that, leading up to that, impacts the way we appear in the world. And then once we're here, everything that happens to us impacts the way we appear in the world. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. It's easy to get confused and start thinking that when you cause it as cause and effect, that you're actually, one thing is creating another. And it's saying it's not what it's meant. One thing cannot be the creator of another thing. As a matter of fact, no thing ever causes or creates another thing. Cause and effect deals merely with events. An event is that which comes, arrives, happens as a result, consequently, of some preceding event. No event creates another event. It is merely a preceding link in the great orderly chain of events flowing from the creative energy of the all. And then it goes on to say there is no great, there is no small in the mind of the cause of all. So there's no item that is the great cause or the great event that affected the next one. It could be as much as the dust of something going by to a great earthquake. It all has it all is equal in the mind of cause. In addition, every thought we think, every act we perform has its direct and indirect result, which fits into the great chain of cause and effect. And then this is interesting because they start by saying, we do not wish to enter into the consideration of free will or determinism. And then they go into it in great detail. They do say some things quite interesting about free will. The teachings are that a man may be both free and yet bound by necessity. The further the creation is from the center, the more it is bound. The nearer the center it reaches, the nearer free it is. The majority of people are more or less the slaves of heredity, environment, etc., and manifest very little freedom. They are swayed by the opinions, customs, and thoughts of the outside world, and also by their emotions, feelings, and moods. And then it's really interesting because it goes into basically, that is my will, that is my wanting, that is my pleasing. And yet, if you really look, why is that you're wanting and you're pleasing? The master can change these pleases and wants into others at the opposite end of the mental pole, basically using the law of, or the principle of polarity. He's able to will instead of to will because of some feeling, mood, emotion, or of environmental suggestion. So this really just reminds me of all the ways that if I use the tools which I've been given about my life and the examples of people that are able to seem to have some sort of center of peace, then I am able to will my will more and more often. The majority of people are carried along like the falling stone, obedient to the environment, outside influences, and internal moods and desires. I know that I've felt that many times in my life. But the masters, knowing the rules of the game, rise above the plane of material life and placing themselves in touch with a higher power of their nature, dominating their moods, characteristics, abilities, and polarity, as well as the environment around them. So they basically become the causes instead of the effects. So the masters do not escape the causation on the higher plane, but fall into the higher waves and thus master the circumstances on the lower plane.
So instead of chipping away at the ice to make an ice sculpture, they're working with the water and the steam to create the shape in the first place. Yeah.
They thus form a conscious part of the law instead of being merely blind instruments. While they serve on the higher planes, they rule on the material plane. I mean, I think of it as all great masters and teachers, not only in religious teachings, but I mean, you can look at, all people in society and public figures, and you can kind of tell the difference on who's able to master their being in their circumstances and who are just merely bouncing around as a result of it. And so for me, I'd really like to learn more and explore more tools in which I can use to accomplish more mastery in my life. And I think that just studying these laws is one way of getting there. On the higher and on the lower, the law is always in operation. There's no such thing as chance. The blind goddess has been abolished by reason, that everything is governed by universal law. There is nothing outside of law, nothing that happens contrary to it. The Hermetic teachings are that man may use law to overcome law, and that higher will always prevail against lower until at last he has reached this stage in which he can refuge in the law itself and laughs the phenomenon laws to scorn. Are you able to grasp the inner meaning of this? We know that everything is vibrating and that its vibration is expanding and ever changing. We know that it's always moving between these two poles of opposite moving energy. And now we know that that vibration is somehow affecting the events around us, not only from this moment forward to all that it extends. So given all that information, it really tells me that the most important thing is how I'm feeling right here in my core, in my heart, and even in my solar plexus, just like that, knowing my core, how I'm feeling in those two places is really the most important, because that is the center where I'm generating my core energy that's going out and affecting all of that which is around me. And then I know by mental transmutation that it is possible to change that vibration. And so I know that in every single moment, I have a choice to change how I'm feeling right here, because that's most important. If I focus on that, then I can radiate that out as far as I can, one little nano bite at a time.
Yeah, that's really, it's much more nuanced than the initial way people think of cause and effect, or the initial way we tend to like think of the law of attraction, just think this and write it down and that happens. That's so quid pro quo, and that's not how it works. It's much more nuanced and broader, and it requires that we be willing to not just think some happy thoughts, but to change our resonant frequency, which is really what you were saying, to say, well, looking into my core and changing the vibration there is really, that's what it is, changing my resonant frequency so that I'm more continuously attuned to this than this, which is not the same thing as repressing my feelings or repressing my negative emotions. I mean, it's perfectly healthy to look at all the things we feel, because that's information, and it allows us to know, oh, I'm not in a good place with this, so I either need to change my circumstances, my perspective, my actions, in order to shift that resonant frequency.
Yeah, I almost see it as when I repress those feelings, I'm closing down my heart, obviously, to protect it. But then when I close down my heart, I basically cut off my my gut and my core. And so that's something I'm definitely gonna focus on.
That's funny, because that's been my focus this week. So for me this week, it correlates perfectly with this. My commit was to pay attention, where is my decision making coming from? Is it coming from my solar plexus, out of an ego thing about what it means about me to do this or not do it? Or am I coming from my heart, so that it's an expression of love for the benefit of everyone that comes? And when I'm doing it out of my heart, it's almost completely stress-free. When I'm doing it out of my gut, it's very stressful.
Yeah, I would agree. And not only that, when I'm coming in it from my heart, everything just works. Like when we bought this place, it unfolded so easy. There was never any struggle. And anytime I had a doubt in my mind, my realtor would call me with some good news. As opposed to other times where it's just constantly everything going wrong.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that's the end of what I had for the principle of cause and effect. I usually do a meditation and then the closing prayer. So go ahead and get comfortable in your seat. Take some 3 deep breaths. So I'm going to do this by putting one hand just below my chest bone and one right on my heart, and see if I can focus the energy in these 2 cores of my being as we go through this. So draw your energy to your heart. I like to imagine a little tiny white dot and you see it slowly, slowly melt and expand and glowing from that area. And as it expands, let it go ahead and drop down right into your core, just below your chest. Let that whole area illuminate together. And then pull the light up into right into your neck area. Let it all illuminate. And pull it down just below your belly button. Let it expand and illuminate. Pull it up into your third eye, right into your forehead. The whole area illuminate. Pull it down right below. Your tailbone. Let it melt through and illuminate. And now just feel this light just fill all of your body. Just be your own light bubble being, just floating in the all, floating in the current as it moves back and forth, going into the direction of easy flow, riding the wave back into tension, and then riding it back down into easy flow again, and just breathing, knowing that in all of the rhythm and all of the locations, your light and beaming, your light is beaming and it's perfectly solid. And as you're ready, you allow your light to radiate out beyond you, and let all the sections out change its color based on all the different colors around it, and absorb it and play and interact. Knowing that anytime that light out there can retreat back to the solid bubble you have before, that always remains true. True to your heart. You're so grateful for this gift. Just relax into. Hug yourself, knowing that we're always learning to protect ourselves more and radiate freely. Where we are is I like to just start by rubbing my hands along my legs and just come back to the here and now. And I'm going to end with a closing prayer. The light of all surrounds us. The love of all enfolds us. The power of all watches over us. Wherever we are, all is, and that's the truth.